Assalamu alaikum. We're here at Jalsa Salana USA 2012. As part of the National Ta'aleem program, we're here to talk about getting into graduate school. I'm here now to talk about getting into law school, which is a program we have, and we're very fortunate to have two people who've gone down the law path. One graduated, and one is entering his second year. I'm joined here to my immediate left by Salaam, Bhatti, and also Ahmad. Thank you for being with us. Can you guys just have a little background about yourself?
Age before I finished law school. I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was a kid, primarily because there were so many Ahmadi doctors and scientists, people in that field. I wanted to do something different. And now, mashallah, I'm seeing a lot of more interest in the law field from the Ahmadi Muslim perspective. So I did it, I went through it, and now what I'm trying to do is make sure that what I know now I can tell the niece and everybody else who's younger, so that when they go in, they get the best that they can. They get the best education, get the best chances afterwards.
That's great. And Salaam, you graduated from Torah Law School. You graduated last year, correct? 2011.
2011.
MashaAllah. Anisa, can you just tell me about your background, where you are in the law? You currently in law school?
Yeah, I'm a second 2L right now.
Okay.
So, but the question was, why did I choose law school?
We're going to do the why. You can talk a little bit about why you chose it, but just give me a background in terms of your second year law school at the University of Richmond.
Right.
And what attracted you to law?
So, law is essentially the most versatile and yet reliable degree out there. There's a lot of professional degrees you can get. You can get a master's in various social sciences, but job security, I mean, even if the economic environment wasn't that precarious, even then some social sciences don't offer you job security. There's obviously the hard sciences, but the hard sciences are really relegated to their areas. You do have some level of flexibility. You can combine majors, for example, an MD, MBA. But for the most part, you are compartmentalized into one specific study. With a JD, not only can you pursue a career in law, but you can combine it with and achieve an interdisciplinary understanding of various sciences. And also you can get into various types of job markets, consulting. You can get into research your own business. Obviously you can be an attorney. So the reason I like law, the reason I want to be a lawyer, one reason is that it allows you the flexibility to explore and still have a job, a reliable future.
That's great. We've had many kids stop by over the last couple of days at Jalsa, and pertaining to the law field, one of the things that many students in high school and college ask is, to your point of these five, there's so many different ways that you can go into law. Their question is, if they don't know exactly which area is well suited for them, is law still an option for them? Do they still consider pursuing a career in law? For both guys. Salaam, maybe you can start.
Yeah, no, the stereotype is that you should be a poli-sci major in college, and then you go to law school.
Right.
That's not the case. You don't have to do poli-sci. You could do biology. You could be pre-med, and you could still take the LSAT and get into law school.
Right.
And in fact, it's encouraged to do something outside of the scope of poli-sci, outside the scope of history, to better yourself in terms of your own education and what you can bring to the law firm that you will, inshallah, work at eventually. So when it comes to, for example, like patents, you need, there's the bar exam you take after law school, there's also a patent bar exam. And that's only available to people who have a science background, not political science, but like chemistry and that kind of stuff. So if you're going to go into law school and you want to make some mad money afterwards, take some science courses, be a science major. Pursue that avenue of your brain. Go into law school and you'll have the best of both worlds.
That's great. And my question for you, some of the trends in law school for applicants applying to law school has changed a little bit. bit. So historically, looking back at law, people would go directly after they're graduated college. You're seeing a trend where people are working for a couple of years, getting some experience, and then going. Do you have advice one way or the other? Which way did you sort of pursue, and what advice would you give to some of our MBA kids?
The most famous example probably is our president, President Barack Obama. He, in a PBS special, they asked, had other people who were his classmates ask, what was he like as a student? And actually, Professor Lawrence Tribe said he's a renowned constitutional law professor, and he said that President Obama was the best student he ever had. His classmates said that the one thing President Obama had on everybody else, aside from his genius and his sense of things, was that he knew why he was going to law school. He said, we're the type of kids, most of us, we do really well in school, we get the scholarships, we do good on an LSAT, and we just end up going because, quote unquote, this is the word that his classmate used, that's the thing you're supposed to do. President Obama knew that the law degree would get him somewhere. He wanted to get into politics, he wanted to get into public policy work, and a law degree was the best way to have that goal be realized. So, despite me emphasizing President Obama's route, and that's the route I took, I did real work experience, I did a lot of writing, and then I went to law school. I would say that there's no one right answer. Some people simply do well in school, they love an academic environment, and they can have a seamless transition from undergraduate to graduate school. But a lot of people who don't know why or what their future holds, having a couple years to do work, and jumping off of what Salaam said in the last question about having a background in science or these types of things, real work experience also allows you to have a broader understanding of what you want to do, and it allows you to coalesce it with eventually an understanding of law. So for a student who doesn't know what he wants to do, I would tell him to look at the route of President Obama, get into real work experience, then see if a law degree answers your question, like the reason for why you want to pursue a career in law. For a person who's doing excellent in school, a law degree can't go wrong. Like I said before, the flexibility it offers and the job security that's there, you can't go wrong.
Right.
So you have to assess your own skill set and then answer accordingly.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Please.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
In fact, I wish I could go back and take a few years in between undergrad and law school to get real world exposure, to understand how the world works, because a lot of the basic law courses you take in your first year deal with real life.
Right.
And people that go straight through school from kindergarten to law school aren't getting that exposure.
Right.
So I've seen firsthand the people that have the real world exposure do much, much better.
Right.
Not just because you know what's happening, but because you know how to manage your time as well, which is crucial to the first year.
And you can relate different sort of scenarios to certain experiences in your life.
Exactly.
That's great.
And your perspective is much more refined.
Right.
It's not an academic perspective alone.
Right.
You have real world experience to relate to your academics.
Which makes sense.
But if you're going from kindergarten straight through law school, your friends are the same age as you. If you take a few years between undergrad and college, and you're working, you'll have friends of different ages, different experiences, and that'll all go into your brain and help you further your own life.
That makes sense. Okay. There are a couple of different factors for law school, and the question that we get a lot is about the LSATs, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So many colleges, aside from your experience and your volunteer work and your GPA, the LSAT is also the one denominator which they can sort of compare you to students across the country and the world. Can you give some advice to students looking to pursue a career in law about the LSATs? How should they go about preparing for it, and how important is the grade and the number? Salama, if you want to start on that.
LSAT, there's so many courses out there that are available in the market, and so many of them just don't work. It's different for everybody.
Right.
I took the LSAT twice. A lot of people I know take the LSAT twice, and which is perfectly fine because the school will just take the higher score. I mean, they understand it's a hard exam. There's a lot of pressure. I took two different things. One, I did a Kaplan self-study, and then whatever. And then I did another video tutor kind of thing. So that just shows how many different things you can do. But you just have to do what works for you. Look at what is offered, and then you just go with it.
Right.
Schools have pre-law programs, but sometimes that's just a bunch of ruckus. LSATs as possible. Each time you take a practice LSAT under the timed conditions, you'll do a little bit better each time. And then if you can go into the LSAT game day, you're good. You're good to go. That's practice.
Like when should you start preparing for that?
Yeah, so the question was, when should you start preparing for the LSAT exam? Typically, when do you guys take the LSAT? In October of your senior year? Senior year.
The LSAT is junior year. A lot of times you want to take it.
Okay.
Because senior year you want to have your acceptance already planned out. If you take it your senior year, you have to wait until the year in between.
I took it fall of my senior year. I took spring of junior and fall of senior.
And you guys can correct me. What I've heard, and I think at least I think you're alluding to this, is there are two options. You can take it in the spring of your junior year and the fall of your senior year.
The LSAT is offered 4 times throughout the year.
Right.
Okay? But the thing that you have to always keep in mind when you're preparing for the LSAT is that the most important date is the deadline date for the law schools that you plan to apply to. Now, normally, early admission is around November, December, okay, for any school. Regular admission and a regular deadline for applications ends around March. There is some, flexibility in the dates, but that's around the time. So clearly, if you take the test in June, you're not going to be able to apply for that coming fall's class because the March exam the deadline has already passed. Now, the one thing I would emphasize, I would respectfully disagree with Salaam. For me, my experience, I would tell anybody, test masters is, for me, it was extremely helpful.
And that's a prep course that you took, right?
Test masters.
Okay.
I jumped from a 148 on my first practice to 169.
Okay.
And just so people know how the scores work, 171 out of 180 is 99th percentile.
Right.
So for me it worked, and for a lot of people I know it worked. Now,
Right.
I will also say with a caveat, for Salaam it might not have worked. But for me and for people I know, test masters has been the best.
Right. So for people who are very disciplined and can go the self-study route, it may work. And for other people, the preps courses are very helpful.
Specifically test master.
Test master and test master specifically. We've talked a little bit. GPA is very important, obviously, across the board. We've talked about the LSAT. There seems to be also for certain schools a magic number on the LSAT cutoff. The LSAT score ranges from 120 to 180. So as Denise said, obviously you want to try to get as high as you possibly can on the LSAT exam. What about extracurricular activities in college? How heavily are they looked at, and what specific? Do you have to be president of the debate team, for example, or do you focus on extracurricular activities that you're passionate about?
I've done a lot of editing on personal statements, a lot of coaching on personal statements for law school, and for med school, business school, you name it.
Yeah.
What I always tell people is that your personal statement has to present a cohesive theme of your undergraduate career. Okay? So let's say you take one theme, which is opportunity. Okay? And you're trying to pitch to the law school that my entire undergraduate career has exhibited this ideal of opportunity.
Right.
So let me give you an example. I've exhibited this quality by starting up my own non-profit homeless shelter. I've gone to legal clinics and helped give aid to paralegals and lawyers.
Right.
Everything in my academic life has been geared around providing opportunity to other people. And as a result, I should be given this because your law school has these programs which align with my career goals. Now, all this preface is relevant to your question because the community service or extracurricular activity that you have to speak to that common theme. So you don't want to do research in biotechnology if your hope is to start a nonprofit fund for people with low-income housing or something like that. There has to be a seamless transition between your career goals, your reasons for going to law school, and your extracurricular activities. That's how you pick your extracurricular activities. Now, once you pick them, our colleague Naveed Malik, he's a Harvard graduate, Harvard a chance to get a letter of recommendation. You're going to have one from your professor. You're going to want one from an extracurricular advisor.
Right.
That's how you want to pick your extracurricular.
Okay, that's helpful. Salaam?
Yeah, agreed. Don't try to do everything,
Right.
then you're just stretching yourself thin, and you're not getting the best of the roti,
Right.
You want a nice roti, so do something and do it well.
Yeah, in business, we call this the value proposition for your personal self, right? You're creating your position that will also help you in your essays, the essays obviously are very important as well when you're applying to school. How did you guys go about, Salaam, I'm going to direct this to you, how did you go about picking a law school?
I used a website called legalnut.com, and it'll show you your chances of acceptance at law schools, at every single law school. So that's something that I found later on. And then you're also supposed to have like a list of 9 or 10 law schools, 3 dream schools, 3 schools you get in, 3 fallback schools.
Got it.
So that's the route I took. And then I just send out the applications. Make sure you have the application fee paid, because if you don't have the check in there, you're rejected.
You're not going to get rejected, right? Okay.
You'll get rejected.
Right, got it. Please find anything to add there.
So I say a couple things. Number one, and this is a pitfall of a lot of applicants, myself included in the beginning,
Right.
rank is important. Don't fool yourself, but it's relative. So there's what's known as the top 14 in law school. These are nationally recognized, not everybody's a nationally recognized school, but they are prestigious on a national scale. Georgetown, Chicago, Harvard, Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, these types of schools.
Right.
If you get in any one of them, that's the real. There are schools that are ranked 25th. For example, I'll give you, when I was in undergrad, I was looking at Iowa, it's ranked 22nd. Now, despite them ranking 22nd, they don't have much of a presence in New York or DC or LA. Okay? If you do well in that school, granted, you'll probably get a job in a major city. But the average student in that school is going to be looking at the job market in central United States.
Right.
So rank, once you pass the top 14, it's still important, but don't weigh all of your hopes on just the rank. Okay, look at, and this transitions into the second point about how I pick schools. Look at the schools and which areas they're strong in, specifically what subjects they're. Maybe some schools are really good at IP.
Right.
Maybe some are good at human rights law. So that's one area. The second thing is which job markets or cities are they strong?
Right.
The geography is very important. Do you want to live near your parents? Do you want to live near Marcus? Do you want to travel and go to California?
Right.
These types of things are also important. Which law schools have the best connections with the prestigious law firms in those cities? These are all factors that you have to consider. And it's a lot of tedious, I think Salaam will agree, you had to do a lot of internet searching, a lot of phone calls. But at the end, this is your 50, 60 years worth of investment. 50 years worth of work is going to be based on this time investment for a couple of days, so it's worth it. And that's how I went about it.
So also off of that, law schools have clinics, which are about 3, 4, 5, 6 ways where law students can actually practice law in the school environment.
Okay.
So, for example, in my school, there was an international human rights clinic, which is the reason why I decided to go to that school, because I wanted to be able to do that kind of stuff. So that's another thing to look for in law schools. Maybe everybody doesn't actually want to get into Harvard Law. Like, what if they don't have, let's say you want to do immigration, then maybe Harvard Law isn't really where you need to be. Maybe you can go to Yale instead or something. So, again, rank is important, but your desire is also important. How much can you hustle after you graduate? I've met with Harvard lawyers, I've met with lawyers from the bottom. And what's always fascinating is the successful ones are always the ones that are hustling, no matter what rank
They are. You guys answered my question on ranking, and I appreciate that. We have some young people in the audience who are thinking about a career in law and evaluating it. If you could go back and give advice, and we have some people who are graduating high school, going into college now, and we have people who are in college right now. What advice would you give them in sort of A, evaluating a career in law, and B, the law school process? If there's some advice that you can give pertaining to that.
That we haven't already said?
That you haven't already said pertaining to that. Maybe timeliness, you talked about the essays, I mean, they can start in high school before that.
Before that,
Yeah.
tomorrow, Nuzu's going to, inshallah, give awards to MASQ members. Two of those kids are in 5th and 6th grade. They publish in the Baltimore Sun and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Just to give you an idea of the scale of the accomplishment. Those two newspapers reach a daily circulation of more than 200,000 people. So if a 5th and 6th grader can attain this level of success at that early an age, there's no reason why a person who's interested in law and who's going to be writing basically his entire career shouldn't be taking advantage of this opportunity. So MASQ is what I would suggest. And the website is muslimwriters.org. Okay, muslimwriters.org.
So, any advice or any skill sets that we haven't covered that you think would be helpful when applying to law school?
Well, so when you're deciding what you want to do, think about, let's say if you're in high school, you still have 4 years of college and you have 3 years of law school. That's 7 years. Try to think what field of law will be growing in 7 years, at least. And the best way to do this, of course, a 15-year-old kid can't figure that out. Talk to some lawyers.
Right.
Show some initiative. I think the growing field right now is IP law, patents, all the intellectual property. You got the digital things that are happening now. So that'd be a field to go into. So undergrad, maybe you'd have like a computer science or something with computers, so you know the lingo. Some other advice is patience. Not legally related, but you gotta have patience. It's gonna be very frustrating.
Yeah.
As Muslims, we're taught about jihad and struggling.
Right.
It's a huge struggle. First year is the worst year of law school. You learn, they deconstruct you and then they build you back up in terms of how to write and how to read and how to think. Because there's that phrase, think like a lawyer,
Right.
and you finally get to understand it during your first year of law school. So you have to go in with an open mind. Know that what you probably know before going to law school isn't really the way it's going to always be.
Yeah.
And just fix yourself as you go through. And then you'll be fine, inshallah.
You guys have any? I'm
Before
sorry.
they go, the one organization we didn't mention is AMLA. Ahmadi Muslim Law School,
Okay.
Law Association. Obviously, if you want to be a lawyer and interested about it, go talk to AMLA.
And our students will have an opportunity to reach out. You guys are, that's great.
But AMLA is
AMLA is important.
Our
Yeah.
email address is amlausa@gmail.com.
Okay, that's great. You guys have any questions? Law school questions?